Hey y'all. Hey beauties. Welcome to Quarantine Creativity. I'm hot as heck, y'all. I have no AC in my office. But the good news, do you notice something different? I have done some work to my office today. And I'm really excited about it because the more I do in my apartment, my little townhouse, the more I feel like it's home, you know? So I'm really excited. I feel like having this space done up is going to make me feel more productive. No, I'm not giving you all a beat today. I am giving you a lion's mane and some red lip and some nah. Rosa Parks circa 1955, you know, because we're about that life. I have my little Black Lives Matter earrings on in case you forgot, because we're still on a mission. Hey cousin, hey Mrs. Capel. My cousin's in here, guys. She just got married. It's kind of exciting. But we out here, we repping for the people nonstop. Look, Juneteenth was this weekend, and I'm so glad that so many more of my people are celebrating than usual. But just because the weekend is over doesn't mean the celebration is over. Okay? And please pardon y'all. I don't live in the hood. I live in an okay area, but I'm hood adjacent. You feel? So these fireworks have been going off nonstop, and y'all are just gonna have to bear with us all. But I feel like a lot of neighborhoods are experiencing that right now. So pray for the saints. Pray for everyone. I'm sweating. The fireworks are going off. But hey, we are alive, and so we're blessed. And so we're going to have a good time tonight. I'm going to give people a little bit of time to get in here. But y'all know how I do. You can catch it on the replay if you don't catch it on the live. I don't care if it's one person or if it's 20,000 people. Really doesn't matter to me. Hey, Aisha girl, we going to have a good time regardless. Okay, so today, you know, I usually do poems that I've written and other people have heard before. Look at my sister in here. Hey girl. But on today, we're going to do a poem and a haiku that I did in a workshop with a friend of mine, a really good friend of mine who also happens to be one of my favorite poets in the whole world. And I have never done this poem before alone. So we're going to do that because it's a poem that came from a workshop that was facilitated by a phenomenal Black woman that was facilitated using some of the work of phenomenal Black women. And it was discussing concepts like Black girl magic and complicated themes. And I think what better way to continue celebrating the pursuit of liberty and equity and celebrating the phenomenal nature that is Blackness than doing a piece that was birthed out of all of that, and that was raw, and it's unedited, it's not cute, it's not polished, it's not done, but it's something to share with the people. Now, and I'm gonna be like, look, so just so you know, I mean what I'm talking about. It's like handwritten. When do y'all ever see me do poetry like out of a handwritten note or journal? That's how you know I'm coming with the raw today. So I have a few quick announcements just so we are all on the same page. If you're joining, come on in the room. As Auntie Tabitha would say, I missed you guys. I enjoy spending some time with you, even if it's just for a few minutes to kiki. Sometimes it's heavy and it feels like grief. Sometimes it's exciting. Sometimes it's challenging. But whatever it is, it's a good time when I get to spend time with y'all. I think it's a blessing. Okay, so here's some quick announcements. If you want to kick it with me outside of Mondays, with Quarantine Creativity, please make sure you are following me. I'm on Twitter at Queen G Poetry. I'm on Facebook at Queen G. I'm on everything is Queen G Poetry, and my website is queengpoetry.com. I know that we are in this push to celebrate Blackness, which includes supporting Black business. Now, y'all know I love to put content out because I love you. I don't be charging for the stuff that I put out. But if you want to support so that my platform can expand so I can provide you with more things and more resources, more information and education and empowerment and excitement and affirmation and all of those things, then you can support through merch. You can go to QueenGPoetry.com/store. There is new merch that's going to be released this month and next month. Why? Because I turn 30 next month. 29 days left of me being 29. And so in celebration of a new decade and a new year, I'm going to be releasing new stuff, and I'm really excited about it. So if you want to support, you can always support that way. A new opportunity to support or to get access to me. I know people are like, oh, like, hey, you should like do a TED Talk. Hey, you should teach this. You should do I know 30 y'all, I can't wait. All my people in the chat who are already in their 30s, I'm coming for you. I'm coming for you. I'm finna join you. So I'm really excited about that. But anyway, like I was saying, people ask for resources, they ask for coaching, they ask for all types of things that I have the skill for, but they require a lot of investment and typically significant financial investment. So through becoming a Patreon, depending on your pay level or the level you want to donate on, you can have access to a lot of those things. This leads me to the next point. If you've been following me on social media, you know your girl started a Patreon. What is a Patreon? It's an opportunity for people to support me and my work. I'm a patron of many artists and creatives because I believe in the passing of the offering plate, right? Like if I go to church and the word is good and the things are happening and I believe in what's happening in the ministry of that house, you know what I do? I put a little money in the offering plate. So Patreon is like a digital offering plate that just happens to come around every month. Not even every week like church, every month. And so I support artists, and I wanted to give other people an opportunity to do the same. How much is it, Gabby? I got you. So it starts at $3. For as little as $3 a month, you can get access to exclusive content. And when I say exclusive content, it's not like, well, I'll just go to her Instagram. No. It's not going to be available on Instagram because I got to honor those who sew into me, right? So starting at $3 a month, you can get exclusive content, sometimes personalized content, live shows, and depending on where you are, you can get shout outs on the podcast. You can get unedited versions of the podcast or special episodes. You can get personal coaching. You can get personal consulting, which I usually will only provide to corporations who pay me monies. But I want to offer that to the community because it's about doing the work and being the work for the people. So if you want to participate in that and support me that way, if you have the resources, you can go to QueenG.com. Thank you, girl. You can go to actually patreon.com/QueenPoetry. Patreon.com/QueenGPoetry, and you can sign up to become a patron. Don't miss out. Folks done already started signing up. Don't miss out. And I say that because the way we've been meeting every week, twice a week, it's been great, guys. This has been a wonderful bonding experience for me. It's helped me to develop as an artist. However, because I am developing content that is focused on Patreon, we're really not going to be kicking it twice a week anymore. We're only going to be doing quarantine creativity at this point once a week. So the archives of all the quarantine and creativities that we've had before, videos of performances. You ever want to see somebody perform and you're like, dang, I couldn't make it, I wish there was a video. That stuff's gonna be on Patreon. Access to things before I upload it on YouTube for the public, I'll be uploading it for you guys. And so because of that, I have to redirect some of my energy. So it's not like I'm abandoning you. Of course, I always provide free content for everyone, but some of those things are going to be exclusively for my patrons. So instead of getting that cup of coffee, Starbucks be acting racist and janky anyway, you can become a patron for as little as $3 a month. Then the tiers increase. You know, there's $3, $5, and so on and so forth. So I just wanted to make you all aware of that. And then I also wanted to make you aware of virtual shows. You guys know I've been doing performances throughout quarantine, and I have another one coming up. Yeah, you do stay ready. That's my girl. Let me tell you, Jasmine is my A. She be riding or dying, let me tell you. But I am doing a show. Those of you who don't know, World Refugee Day is this week. And I will be doing a show with Amnesty International, with a chapter of Amnesty International. And I'm going to do a whole set. I'll be answering questions. And there's another poet from the New England area who's going to be participating. And it's going to be a fantastic event. I'm really committed to this because it's the type of work that I deeply and truly believe in. And for those of you who are believers, I believe this is the kind of stuff that is ministry, even outside of like church and stuff. So my show's gonna be on Wednesday, Amnesty, with Amnesty International. I will share that in my stories. I'll share it on all my social media platforms. So if you want to tune in, I believe it's free. You can just log in. Make sure you tune in with that. All right. I think I went through all my announcements, guys. Okay, so let's get into a little bit of poetry. We can get into a little bit of tea as well if you have some tea. We can also share that if you have some, if you want to talk and have a discussion. You know, we love discussion. We use our art as a vehicle to learn, to empower, to reflect, to educate, all that stuff. Okay, so the first one, hey Des, hey Brenda, look at all the beautiful people in this room. Okay, so the first one is from the More Black Girl. Both of them will be from the More Black Girl, the Magic Workshop. This is just in case y'all didn't see, in case you forgot, we about that life. So this is my shirt via Rosa Parks. I got my Black Lives Matter earrings on because we about that life 24/7, 365. Not only on June 19th and February. Okay. So this is a little haiku thing that I wrote. The workshop was amazing, and if I stumble, mind your business, because I ain't never read it before, so lower your expectations. Okay. Hey gorgeous, thank you for coming in the room. We're gonna kick it tonight. All right, so here is the haiku. I rise, high, thigh, thick, high, rise, side to side, I beat, I blend, I sow, I sigh. So that was super short. Why? Because it's a haiku. It's only 3 lines long, y'all. It's only a few syllables. About 17 syllables altogether. And this was inspired by when I think about like Black Girl Magic. Like, what do I think about? So, you know, it has this beauty of like how you wake up and you exist, especially me coming out of corporate America, right? Like what it means to be more Black girl than magic, but also the struggle that comes with it, this idea and this lofty expectation that people have of us. So that's where that piece came from. Are you ready for some more? That was just an appetizer. Oh, so we have this joke, Jasmine and I, since quarantine. You know, in a restaurant, you will like, before the food come out, the main course, you have an appetizer. Well, at home, sometimes it takes me a while to cook, and we be hungry. So we'll have pre-food. You feel me? Oh, look at my new cousins in the room. Hey, cousin. We got newlyweds in the room. Y'all say congrats. But you know, food takes a while to cook sometimes, and so we'll have some pre-food. Like if I'm making rice or something elaborate, because I'm fake bougie and I'm fake fancy, and I be making feasts for like no reason. Like we be having Sunday dinners like on a Tuesday for no reason, right? But it takes a while to cook all that food. So we'll have pre-food. Like you can have a yogurt to hold you over. You'll be fine. Yes, the Caples are in the house, Mr. and Mrs. Capel. But yeah, so that haiku is a little bit like pre-food. It's not the main course. It's not going to fully satisfy your craving. It's just a little something to hold you over until you get to the main thing, right? So that haiku was pre-food. All right. I hope I do not. I hope I don't mess this up. All right. And if I do, like I said, mind your business. I ain't never read it before. Relax. Relax. Okay. He looked at me like he was on to me. Like he knew I didn't know what I was doing. And I let him. I watched him tiptoe around our secret until he was brave enough to dig its grave. See, he ain't know what he was doing either. I realized we'd made a cauldron of the air between us, thick with the facades our ancestors told us to never keep, stirring with the doubt hanging on our heavy tongues, calling one another by names our mamas did not give us, hiding from the shame of answering to them. I knew, and he knew, and we taught ourselves to stop breathing. But maybe today we could bury the barter and the bullet. Maybe we could throw all of our braces and burdens in the pit and set it ablaze. Maybe there is rest in the fire. And God knows who we are. God knows we both, Lot and his wife. Maybe there is fresh air in the flames. I release you, beloved. There is no betrayal in talking in cold switches and fragment and salt all over your mouth. We were just doing our best with the stolen pieces we were given. Okay, so, but that's it. So, I want to chat a little bit about this with you guys, because as a woman who has had to code switch my entire life, you'll see me switching in and out too, because I will, you know, I know how to switch and turn on my phone voice. Y'all know the phone voice, or y'all know the Caucasian voice we be turning on. Hi, my name is Gabrielle Gibson. I'm so excited to be with you here today. I'm looking forward to really engaging in a thoughtful discussion and hopefully exchanging some ideas that can lead to a solution. I know how to do that, right? I also know how to access the communication that feels most natural to me. Believe it or not, before I was born here, but in my home it was Liberia. Yes, my Karen voice, right? But like, it was little Liberia in my home. We were eating jollof rice before soup, all that thing. And so as a Liberian American, I spoke Kolokwa in my home. And so for a little while when I was young, I like Kolokwa is Liberian English. Think of it like Kolokwa is to Liberians like Patois is to Jamaicans. You understand? Or Pidgin is to some other cultural groups in West Africa. So I had a little bit of an accent when I was little for a little while. Why? Because that's the communication that I heard. And so Kolokwa was normal to me. So, you know, sometimes when I'm with my people, or if I get a little excited, or if I get a little intense, like emotional, right? You might hear the Liberian English come out. You might hear the Kolokwa take. My series will go. That raw English, I'll be talking to you, right? Like, we know how to transition in those spaces. And then I'm also of a lineage, right, of Black American history, but I also am I'm Black in America, right? So there's that immediate connection, and then there's the understanding that my cousin said, that real it, that it, and right, and then there's this connection of knowing that we also have ancestors. As much as we have ancestors that were indigenous to Liberia, we have ancestors who were formerly enslaved people. And so there's this interesting, intricate weaving, right, of my Black American history and my African history, which I am so proud of. And so I switch between those things. I switch in different spaces. I will sound really different ministering at church than I do talking to my sisters, right? I'm gonna sound different speaking to my best friends than I do speaking to my students. And switching to an extent is human nature, but for us, this level of adapting and assimilating is a means of survival. And so the lens that I took in writing that piece that I hadn't done before, and I might do it one more time for the people who haven't heard it, but was one, we did this activity where we took like a line, like 2 lines from 2 poems that we heard to include in our piece. But also I was just thinking about being in those spaces, right, where like I am told that my meanness, my Blackness, my value, my language, my syntax, my African American vernacular English, my colloqua, right? My dialect, my tongue is too heavy for many environments, and how they try to make us shrink to make us palatable. And how we can toe the line sometimes between survival and feeling like we're selling out, where we can feel like we are like cheapened because we're not our full selves, right? Where professional becomes a cuss word or a code word to say, hey, none of that blackity black stuff here. That is not acceptable. You know that when you're in that space, you're going to be interpreted as less intelligent. And it's a dance that we often have to do, right? It's a dance that we have to navigate. And I think about the conflict of what my ancestors had to go through, and how what we would call selling out, they were just trying to make it out alive. But at the same time, there are those of our ancestors who fought for us, right? Like the who our parents, those of us who have, especially Liberians who have African names, who have Liberian names, or even, you know, our other Black American counterparts who have names that are distinctly theirs, how people will crush them and make them smaller so that it can fit into their mouths. And it's like, but my mama didn't carry me for 9 months and go through this pain and the agony of birthing a Black woman into this world that hates us, for me to show up and for Karen to tell me that my name and my culture and my identity is too uncomfortable for her, right? And so there are these competing things that we feel. And so the story is kind of this moment, thinking about that, but how it translates. It doesn't leave when we clock out, you know, it doesn't leave when the white people are gone. It doesn't leave in those moments. It's like all of these ways we train ourselves to shrink. And, you know, it's like that moment, like, do I put up my fists and put up the Black power, you know, like, and fight for Black power and apologetically and assert myself, because our ancestors went through that so we would have access to not having to hide. They hid in places to make it out alive so that we wouldn't have to, but also understanding we're not all the way free, and sometimes it's survival as well. And that it shows up in your romantic relationships. It shows up in your regular relationships, because you can't be conditioned to think small and to think that there's something inherently wrong with you and that the way you take up space is wrong. You can't be conditioned to think that in society and then just turn it off when you are in a relationship, and then just turn it off in your friendships and just turn it off. It impacts so many parts of you. So it's like this little journey of the ways it shows up in other relationships. And I don't want to define too much what it means, because I feel like it can fit in so many different ways. It's like when it could be when you're in a relationship and you're dealing with a man who's been taught he can't be vulnerable, and that there's something wrong with his black maleness, right? The way his Black masculinity takes up space. And so it's like, but he's also seeing how you've been conditioned that way, and it's impacting your relationship. And you're like, we both know. You acting like I don't know. I know that you're hiding. You know that I'm hiding. What do we do with that? Or in the workplace where that shows up. It's in so many different dynamics. It's kind of this strange shifting thing. And they can pronounce Dostoevsky. They can pronounce all of these European names because they deem those names valuable and worthy. And because their culture is perceived to be elite, then it is not a matter of it being ghetto or it being beneath them. It's a matter of, this is a culture thing. We have to honor this thing, right? Like, that's how they perceive it. But when it's us, when I tell you, I have been, my first name is actually Thekla Gabrielle. I go by Gabrielle. It's a long story, and I don't have time for the tea tonight, right? Just know my mama didn't plan on naming me no Thekla. But it's a really simple name. It's 2 syllables. It's Thekla, right? Thekla. And my, the origins of that name is actually Greek, right? It comes from the words theos and kleos, right? Theos meaning God, and Kleos meaning the fame of, meaning fame or glory. And so my name literally is a simple, well, that part of my name, Gabrielle, means something else, but Thekla, right? It means the glory of God, and it's a 2-syllable name. It's super simple. And because there was a little black girl the name was attached to, I got called everything from tequila to Kayla, Thekia, Tekia, Tequila. I'm missing some of them. There have been so many variations of a name that was never mine, because the assumptions associated with my identity and some assumptions associated with my name. And here's the thing, even if my mama did name me Tequila, you put, oh, Tequilia, that's what, I know I was missing one, Tequilia, yeah. Tequilia was another one. But the thing is, even if that was my name, you put respect on it. You can say Dostoevsky, you can say Beethoven, you can say Chavatsky, you can put respect on my name. And the process we go through with owning that, right? Like, no, you ain't gonna call me T, K, or G. You won't say my name with your whole mouth, right? Because that's the name my mama gave me. Anyway, so names are only one level of that, but it's the easiest and most accessible example that we all know and understand, right? Where we just try to make it. You ever meet somebody and their name is beautifully complicated, and not in a bad way? It's just, it means like a blessing, or it means something profound in their culture, and then like their nickname is Tom, or like Bob, or Jim. Like, you know what I mean? Like, oh no, or like, oh, Sarah. And it's just like, this is the stripping down. They actually did that to Nelson Mandela. His name was not Nelson. But the white missionaries at his school told him he had to, they were changing his name. They just decided they would change his name. Okay, so that's kind of the context and the backstory. And I would love for us to continue this discussion. And as we talk about the present uprising that's happening in our nation, as we talk about the current civil rights movement that we are living in, I would love for us to think about decolonizing our minds. And, you know, we talk about wanting to decolonize government and, you know, not move from this space of centering whiteness and so many things. Racism is so deeply embedded into the foundation and the groundwork of this nation that it infiltrates everything, and we do things and we don't even realize we're doing it because it's so deeply embedded and we're so conditioned. And that's including us as Black people, that we can have internalized anti-Blackness, that we can have internalized racism. Like, for example, colorism is one of the ways that shows up, but it shows up in so many ways. So I really encourage us to like think a little bit differently. Why do we change our voice? Why do you let them just call you that name? How come you only use your initials and not your name? You know, why is that? Aisha says, you speak nothing but the truth. I love talking about this. Girl, me too. Because I love my Blackness. I love my Africanness. I love my womanness. I love all the meanness. And to love it in a world that hates me is revolutionary. And I'm going to be a revolution until I die, right? The piece is so great because it all started with the necessity of assimilation. Why should we have function in a way that requires shrinking? And we're so used to it that we don't even realize what's happening. We're so used to it that it's just like, what do you mean, right? And then we congratulate people for the basic things. You know, I love when people take the time to properly say our names, especially people who are not within our culture. And I try to do that with my students as well. But some of them are so shocked when I do that it seems like it's such a big thing. You know, like a white person saying a Yoruba name, a Bassa name. It's like, oh, they down, invite them to the cookout, they're one of the people. All I did was say your name. And it's profound because there's so much that comes in that name, but also how oppressed have we been that the fact that somebody is willing to do the most basic form of identifying us Like, that is a huge deal. Like, do you ever think about that? Like, we deal with so much that has been normalized that even the littlest smidgen feels like a huge deal to us. Like, that's something that we should really process and think about. Aisha said, so true. People always pronounce my name wrong, and I always tell them that it's okay. I know who I am. D Misfits says the college interns were basic compared to the Europe interns. Right? And like, that's true. So I am a former employee of Europe. If you don't know, I'm putting my business out there. But I worked at Europe for a long time, up until very, very recently. I was a Europe employee, and I was a business communications instructor. And I constantly dealt with these issues because I'm teaching these students these college courses of public speaking, business writing 101, business writing 102. And part of the framework of our program is to provide opportunity for competent, intelligent, urban youth. They love to say that, urban youth. I would say for populations that have been marginalized, to give them access to socioeconomic upward mobility by providing them with work opportunities in corporate America, right? Like, so to speak. So some of these students have been in college, haven't been in college, have never worked in a corporate space. And what is a little bit soul crushing to me is my job as a business communications professor was like code switching was a part of our curriculum, and they had to dress a certain way, and like, they couldn't do certain things, and they couldn't talk. And it was such a struggle for me because there was this conflict of, I know what you deal with when you enter into these spaces, and I do not want to do you the disadvantage of not giving you the tools to survive in those spaces, or to like grin and bear some things so that you get what you want. But simultaneously, I'm feeling convicted because I don't think you should have to adjust or shrink in any way. And I'm feeling the microaggressions and some of the oppression, even as an employee in these spaces, that we're supposedly working against with the work that we're doing. And this is well, I don't care if it's shade or not. I'm just telling like the truth of my experience as a Black woman in this corporate space. And so I tried to be really intentional about using the little autonomy that I had and the little authority I had in my classroom to affirm the identities of the people who were in my room, and to tell them, this is just another language that you are learning to speak, but you are intelligent, you are capable, you are valid. There is nothing wrong with the way you dress. There is nothing wrong with the way you speak. There is nothing wrong with the way that you take up space. We are adapting for a particular, I'm giving you resources for a particular context, but don't you ever think that this is what levels you up or makes you better. In fact, we're going to learn and hear about poets who talk about this. We're going to learn to say affirmations and affirm ourselves. Like, we're going to learn to speak to ourselves a certain way. We're going to learn about our history. We're going to call out the microaggressions and the systemic oppression that exists. If I'm going to have to teach you some tools which feel conflicting to me, I'm going to make sure that I give you the resources that you know to be proud of who you are in your culture. And that if nowhere else in this building, if nowhere else in your corporate journey you feel seen and you feel necessary, you're going to feel that in my classroom. And so I felt it firsthand, because it'd be like, yeah, so we're teaching code switching now. Like, oh, well, they're not wearing the right thing, so that's a problem. Take money out their checks. Oh, they're not speaking in a way that's professional. And it got to the point where sometimes professionals use as a code word for like, oh, y'all acting ghetto. Why are you out here? You're acting ghetto. Like, you know what I mean? And so, like, you know what I mean? If I was in a public speaking class, I would call that out. But anyway, even with that, right? Like, even with public speaking, I had to really navigate how to teach that in a way that's not telling them the way that you naturally speak is wrong, but giving them resources and hopefully confidence in how they take up space to communicate effectively. So when they're in the boardroom, when they're in these spaces, they don't cling to that thinking that tells them that they're smaller than everybody here, that they don't go in with this imposter syndrome that the world has taught them to have. while still saying, you know, we got to communicate in a way that's effective for our audience. So sometimes, like for example, in order for me to teach you through my poetry and through other educational tools about why the way you're functioning is upholding systemic racism, I have to tell you like this, right? And that's because that's my influence in the space that I work in. But if I switch into this, and that's another thing too, if my students saw me switch into this, I would try to maintain what I was supposed to, I guess, to within a certain context. But if I switched back in there, I was like, yeah, because I'm like you. I talk like you. I look like you. I'm about that life like you're about that life. And that you can be here. I'm not special outside of Jesus loving me. There's nothing special about me. I'm not an exception. You are just as bright, as brilliant, intelligent, all of those things. You have that as well. And that's also why representation matters. I can only think about how this material was taught from someone who didn't understand where they were coming from someone who looked at them like they were charity cases, as opposed to disenfranchised people who are brilliant and survivors and victorious and triumphant and intelligent and kind and hilarious and inspiring, not because they're less than us, but because they're just phenomenal individuals. I can only, somebody who wasn't as conscious and committed to affirming people within their cultural and ethnic identities, how this material was taught to them. I can only imagine, right? Which is why we need to take up space, take up as much space as possible. Make them say your name, make them reckon with all of your blackness. If they're being racist, let's not shrink anymore. Let's let them know that they're being racist. And remember that it's not your job to educate them. Seeing you and the fullness of your blackness is enough of a lesson. Okay, it's their job to empower themselves. Why? Because I had to learn how to adapt to survive in your society. I'm not going to teach you why you're oppressing me. You need to know that you're doing it and go do the work, right? Because I had to do the work to survive in this context. And that's why it's so important for us. Okay, I'm going to read some of your comments because I think I missed a couple. This is why I make it my business to properly pronounce names from cultures other than my own. It is identity. And so much of identity is often erased. It is identity. That's why I try hard. And I don't get it all the time. My tongue stumbles. But I'm like, I'm going to say it till you get it. And I always ask my students, like, what is your name and what do you want to be called? Because sometimes they'll give me the easy version or, it's all right, miss. No, it's not all right. What is your name? What name did your mother give you? What identity are you identifying with? Because I respect you enough to do that. And even if it's hard, I'm going to learn that thing. Unless you genuinely prefer something else. Why? Because I see you. The wholeness of you is valid. I see you. And just saying someone's name helps them to feel seen. It shouldn't be that way, but that's how it is. And so those little things make the difference between someone enduring your experience, their experience with you, and somebody feeling empowered. Don't worry, I'm back. Everyone needs a full education with teachers like you. Y'all, I just do my best. I just try. I am not the best, but I try to bring I'm not the best educator, but I try to bring the best of myself. And I'm committed to seeing the best in my students. And so like, that's what I can offer. Dejan says, see, that's why we need more Black educators. They're just as important as doctors and lawyers. Pouring this knowledge into the minds of youth will help expedite the correction that this world needs. It's so true. And thank you, Dejan. And we really need to, and this is why I started my classes, every class, and they would be so tired of me. But I started, Sinise is here. Hey, Sinise is an amazing poet. If you are not already following, you need to follow because I'm a fan. But every class I had to start with affirmation. I don't care if they liked it or not, because if you've never heard that you have a voice and it matters, you have a story and it is yours to tell, and that you are intelligent and capable, and look at my brothers in here, that you are intelligent and capable, and if you can change your mind, you can change your mood, and if you can change your mind, you can change your life. That if you don't know something, that you're able to learn it. If you've never heard that, before you enter into my classroom. I promise you, I will drill it into your brain until it's annoying to you. But you're going to know that you are valued. You are going to know that you are seen, that you are loved, that your story is important, that your voice is important, and you don't need anybody to tell your story for you, right? That this is going to be hard, but you can do hard things. If you've never heard those things before, that if you change your mindset, it will change the outset of your life. If you change your mind, it'll change your mood, that you have power in a world that has systemically tried to take your power away from you. If you've never felt that, encountered that, heard that, believed that before, you're gonna feel that in this classroom. And you don't have to like me. I love my students, and you know, some you cling to more than others because you just connect, but I genuinely love all of my students. I pray for them, I poured into them, but I'm not everybody's favorite. Like, everybody don't love me. You know, I was not the fastest at grading papers, which is probably why I do non-traditional education. Sorry, y'all, phones be trying to act up, but that's why I do non-traditional education, like in the context of community development, consulting, workshops, facilitating training, more than just traditional classroom stuff, right? But the education part, the engagement, like that's my bag, because my goal is to educate and to empower and to make sure people know that they are loved and that they are seen. So whether you liked me or not wasn't the point. You will know that you are necessary. You will know that. You will know that when you enter into these spaces, you're no less than anybody else there. We're going to try our best to kill the seeds of imposter syndrome when you enter into my classroom, when you're one of the students that I coach, right? Whether I'm coaching you in public speaking, or whether I'm kind of like a mentor / coach, whether I am just your educator. You don't have to like me. Because it's not about liking me, it's about knowing your value. And I think more educators need to like understand that. Like, you don't have to like them, you have to love them. You need to make sure that they encounter something when they're with you that they will not get otherwise. If they've never encountered it before, you need to, and I don't care what you're teaching. You could be teaching math. And I would do that all the time. I would find ways like to incorporate these kinds of lessons all the time. Sometimes we would just have check-ins and everybody would share. They would journal every day. Sometimes they share their journals. Sometimes they would just talk to me about how they felt, or we'd go around the class. We would, like, it's important and it's necessary because they're entering into a world that has told them that they don't have value. So anyway, I didn't know we were going to go all over there. I feel like we went on a little bit of a tangent, but it was okay. I'm down for the tangent. That was associated with the poem. I know y'all heard this. If you already heard this, you don't have to listen again. I'm going to read this one more time for people who have not, for the few of those of you who jumped in. This is only going to be my second time reading this. This is a free write that I did in a writing workshop with Harlem's Own Lyric. It was a more Black Girl Than Magic workshop. It was phenomenal. You need to like get familiar and make sure you're following her. Also, if you want a workshop that is consistent, Ashley Hayes is doing God's work in having weekly writing workshops. If you don't know who Ashley Hayes is, I'm going to presume that you're really not into spoken word like that, because she is one of the GOATs of our generation. And she does writing workshops at 3 p.m. every Wednesday. Let me tell you, I thank God for Black women. Let me see and find my right page. Okay, and again, just like I said last time, if I stumble, mind your business. Because I've never done, I'm just doing this the first time today. So give me some grace and mind your business. Otherwise, hold please. He looked at me like he was on to me. Like he knew I didn't know what I was doing. And I let him. I watched him tiptoe around our secret until he was brave enough to dig its grave. See, he didn't know what he was doing either. I realized we'd made a cauldron of the air between us thick with facades our ancestors told us to never keep. Stirring with the doubt hanging on our heavy tongues, calling one another by names our mamas did not give us, hiding from the shame of answering to them. I knew he knew, and we taught ourselves to stop breathing. But maybe today we could bury the barter and the bullet. We could throw all of our braces and burdens into the pit and set it ablaze. Maybe there is rest in the flames. Maybe there is fresh air in the fire. For God knows we are both Lot and his wife. I release you, beloved. There is no betrayal in speaking code switches and salt fragments all over your mouth. We were just doing the best we could with the stolen pieces we were given. Okay, it doesn't have a name yet. I don't know what it's called. It's just kind of like processing. But it also is teaching me, and that's kind of what you get in the poem as well, that it's teaching me to give grace who are on the process, to those who are in a different part of the process of the undoing. So much of what we experience, and I say this all the time, and I mean it, socially, psychologically, and all those things, but I also mean it on a spiritual level. And this applies in both contexts. That when we are born, when God sees us through the eyes of Christ, right? Like he sees us loved. He sees us whole. He sees us as we were created and intended to be, free of the burden of sin, which taints how we see ourselves. It's like looking into a mirror that is so dirty, and you've been looking into that mirror your whole life, that you start thinking the dirt on that mirror is who you are, that the dirt on that mirror is on your face, right? Like that's what it is. And so as I grow in the Lord, it's like an undoing. I start shedding the lies. I start shedding this false identity. I start shedding all the ugliness that sin makes of me. And my life is a journey. Growth is not necessarily growing into something. Growth is often an undoing of everything that is untrue and false. Because when that happens, I don't have to become great. Greatness was already in me. I had to get through the negativity to recognize it. And that's the same thing that happens. So in the spiritual, so it is in the natural with us, and with the ways that we are conditioned in this society. We're looking in a dirty mirror that we didn't dirty, but it's all we know of ourselves. We're looking at the filth and the grime, the ugliness, and we think that's who we are. Oh, you're ugly, you're black, you're dark, you're fat, you're unlovable, you're not manly enough, you're not desirable enough, you're always going to be less intelligent, you're never going to be smart enough. If you're in a room with brilliant people, you don't belong there. Oh, you got to be more white to be anything good in this world. Sometimes we just have to deal with it and settle with it, because that's just the way the world is, and lie after lie after lie after lie. And it's in our systems, it's in our government, it's in our television, it's in our music, it's everywhere, these lies, and it's all we see. So that's what we think we are. And so this is a process. The more conscious we become, the more educated we become, the more knowledgeable we become. It is the undoing, right? And so it's a process. And so when I say I've learned this, in this poem talks about it a little bit, but it's learning to give grace for people who are in a different place of the undoing than I am. It's about, and I'm not talking about oppressors, y'all, I'm talking about my people. And people who are oppressed in some way, shape, or form, who understand this undoing. That it's a process of undoing, because we've been conditioned this way from when we got here. It's not what our nature is, it's what we've been conditioned to believe about ourselves. And some people are in a different place in that process, right? I'm trying to get to the journey of thriving and who God made me to be. And some people may just be working through assimilation at this point. They may just be working through realizing that their blackness doesn't leave a bad taste in their mouth, because that's how they've been conditioned. And so it's me learning to give grace to people who are different, who are in different phases of that journey. It's me learning to give grace but to those who are trying. If you're not trying to undo, we ain't even on the same wavelength, because like we ain't even rocking together. But if you're doing your best to undo, but you're just not there yet, because I've not been there, I'm not there now, it's gonna take me my whole life. But we're in different phases, and where you were, I probably was at some point. So I'm going to give grace to you because I understand that you were given the same dirty mirror that I was given. So we work through this thing and we work to undo. And that's why part of the undoing is so important, right? Like as a Christian, I know that even when we talk about evil and evil spirits, that when you cast one out, you don't just leave that thing empty. Whatever that was inhabiting, you don't leave it empty. It needs to be filled with something good, or else that thing is going to come right back in again. And so if I'm talking about undoing with everyone that I encounter, my mentees, my coachees, my sisters, my friends, my brothers, my family, if I am a guide on this earth to help them undo and to help empower them, I cannot say get rid of this thinking and not give them good thinking in the place of it. I cannot say, what you mean ugly? You're not ugly. That's not what you are. And leave it there. I have to then say, don't you know that you are beautiful from the inside out? You're fearfully and wonderfully made. Don't you know it's a gift to be a Black woman? What are you talking about? Like, I need to replace it with the truth. I cannot, it's not enough to dismantle the lie. The work is only worked well when we deposit the truth. I'm going to say that again. It is not enough to dismantle the lie. The work is only worked well. It is only effective when we deposit the truth. And that's why I speak the way I speak to people. And that's why I celebrate them. And that's why I do my best to see them and to love on them and to affirm them. Because part of the undoing is affirming what is already true. It is depositing what is already true. And that's true. As it is in the spiritual, so is true in the natural as well. But anyway, I love you all. Thank you for kicking it with me. I know it's late. Some of y'all got early bedtimes. I know there are a million other things that you could be doing with your life and your time. And so to kick it with me for a little while, I mean, I really appreciate that. I hope you've enjoyed the content. You know, I love you because I shared a real, you know, real undone, unedited piece with y'all from the book. That's how you know it's real, because it's from the book. Because I love you, and I hope that it fostered some good conversation and some good ideas, and hopefully it's encouraging you on your journey and on your process of undoing. Just remember, I'm so in love with this show, y'all. I want it with family quiz, because we about that life. Like, this is the spirit. Lord, let the boldness and the spirit of Rosa and Harriet come upon me while we are in this time of uprising. Thank you, my family, my friends, my cousins. I love you all. Thank you for kicking it with me. I hope you have a beautiful and blessed night. Make sure you check out the website. Make sure you check out Patreon. And if you can't support financially, say a prayer for your girl, because just like as I pray for you, because we're trying to be whatever it is that God has called us to be in the earth, right? We are called to such a time as this. And remember, as I say every week, if you are alive, you have to what? Keep living. If there's breath in your lungs, if you're breathing, if you are here, it means purpose is not finished with you yet. So there is still something that you have to do. So do your best to preserve the pockets of joy that you can and to preserve the peace that you can, because you're still here. You have to live. You're not here to exist. You're here to live, right? So I love you all. Have a good night, everyone. I will see you. Maybe I'll see you Wednesday.